I got in trouble with the police. Ronaldo plays a lot better than he looks like he does on TV. The Dortmund Stadium is a lot worse than it looks like on TV. Stay tuned for those and more stories on 7 things I learned after going to the Euros in Germany. Let's roll on. Number 7. My honest review on the Westfalen Stadion. Okay, look, maybe I'm just seeing it through turd-tainted glasses because of something else that happened that day. Don't worry, I'll get to that. But honestly, even if I just try to ignore it, the place just wasn't what I expected, and to tell you straight up, it's honestly extremely overrated. And here's why. Okay, so during my most recent solo travel adventure, I was in Germany for 5 days and went to 2 games. Turkey versus Portugal at Signal Iduna Park, aka Westfalen Stadion, aka the Dortmund Stadium, and England Slovenia at the Rain Energy Stadion, aka Mangostofa Stadion, aka Cologne Stadium. And man, when you compare these 2 venues, Cologne is so far ahead in pretty much every way. E.g., Cologne was a much better built stadium with a lot more comfortable seats than legroom. Cologne seemingly had more competent workers. One of the staff in Dortmund gave me bad direction, sent me the wrong way, and made me miss the first 20 seconds of the game. But obviously I'm not down scoring all of the stuff just because of that one incident. Because fact is, Cologne had useful workers even post-match to guide the people to wherever they may want to go next, be it the stadium, restaurant, city centre or whatever. Whereas in Dortmund, while they still had helpers, you're pretty much by yourself. Which I wouldn't have minded as much if the reception around the place wasn't f***ing AIDS. And finally, the atmosphere in Cologne was so much more lively. Though granted, that's not really a fair comparison because it's the yellow wall that these guys are known for, and I didn't exactly go to a Borussia Dortmund game. So all in all, and disclaimer by the way, I'm saying this without knowing anything about the revamping history of either venue, the Rain Energy Stadion was extremely modernized and professional, while the Westfalen Stadion, I mean it's kind of funny, but them being a stadium with an amazing reputation but in reality a bit of a mess, kinda reminded me of Old Trafford, but nowhere near as bad. Let's make that clear. Number 6. The transport in Germany is a joke. And I mean that in both good and bad ways. Cause bro, whether you're talking about trams, overground, underground, intercity rail or even local buses, it's pretty much the same thing. They're almost literally never on time, come nowhere near as frequently as promised in apps and electronic boards, sometimes even ghosting up to 4 hours at a time. Yes. 4 separate hours, one after another, no bus in sight. I'm not joking. Yet, despite all that, I actually prefer the transport in Germany compared to London. Why, you ask? Because it's so technically free. Like, don't get me wrong, it obviously isn't all supposed to be free, but basically the simplest way I can explain is, if you're someone who lives or lived in London and have memories long enough to stretch back to the long stretchy buses where you can get in through the side and or back doors, well, it's basically like that but for every transport. Because brother, from my experience of being there, you don't need to touch a card or anything of that sort to enter the platform, nor do you have to do anything as such after getting on the transport. And out of the few times I used Intercity Rail, I had someone come in and check my ticket once. And as for the buses, yeah, some drivers ask you about your ticket, but I can only guess that's for the sake of conversation because they let you in either way. Thinking about moving there. Number 5. A giant Turkish man kissed me on the cheek. Number 4. Ronaldo does a lot more than you think. And to be fair, this isn't just exclusive to the Euros. I also saw this watching him live when he came back to United. And on the surface, it's pretty simple. Ronaldo's movement across short distances is, even in the year of our Lord 2024, better than any player in the world. And we only see a fraction of it on TV. For example, when he drops deep to drag out defenders and create space for others. Stuff like that we do get to see. When you go to watch him live, however, not only do you get to see exactly how he manages to find himself in so much space so regularly despite easily being the most tightly marked player in the entire tournament, but you also get a bird's eye view of exactly how smart he is with his energy and movement. Like, best believe there were so many times in the game where Portugal were building up from deep, and this is just one example of the many things he does that we don't see on TV. Ronnie would basically walk in one direction and suddenly switch directions, feign to sprint that way, check his run before immediately darting off to the other side and demanding the ball. It's a lot more difficult than I made it sound. You're welcome. The problem with this though, most of the time the ball doesn't get played. And look, this isn't all his teammates' fault, because you have to remember that 1, in any team during any game, the forward receiving the ball in the perfect moment in his stride is a rarity as it is. If it wasn't, then we'd have a lot more than just 1 to 3 goals per match on average. And 2, this is even more rare in Ronaldo's case because, contrary to popular belief, the Portuguese team isn't built around him anymore. This team is a proper team, and while CR7 finding himself in space and looking to get at the end of things can only really be a positive, it is no longer the priority for the supporting cast to find him. These guys instead, much like most teams nowadays, thanks mate, prefer to keep possession, build up slowly with set patterns, and basically walk the ball in. And while Ronnie certainly does his part in all that too, as I've highlighted multiple times before, the team not being built around him anymore means that when he does make his more individual runs, he is inevitably going to be left more starved than he had been in years gone by. But hey, at least he had people in the stands that were willing to keep him company. And speaking of which, number 3, fuck pitch invaders. Fuck them. Fuck all of them. Fuck them. Including this one. Fuck this little twat. Fun fact by the way, just before the last one ran in on the Turkey-Portugal game, if you remember there were like 7 separate ones that day, I sent out a tweet saying something like Ronaldo should stop giving them the time of day as it only encourages them, and lo and behold, my man slapped the next motherfucker into next motherfucking week. And that, my friends, is what you call TBTG. Telepathy between 2 goats. But yeah, fuck these pricks. Number 2, the England fans probably aren't what you think. Okay, so this was the very first England game that I've ever been to. And it's weird because for years I'd hear stories about England fans in games being so overly passionate, taking any and every result to heart and sometimes taking their anger out on the players. With a classic example being Bex's back-to-back years of barbarically bad abuse and backlash post his blatant bite back to being barged from the back by the blaring slick back Ballon of Buenos Aires. And I won't lie, anytime I'd hear these stories I'd get confused because having lived in this country for 23 years and having been an England fan for 20 of those years, I can tell you from first hand that patriotism in this country, particularly from the younger generation, is basically non-existent. Hell, I'm the most devoted England fan I knew growing up and I wasn't even born here. And also I look like this. Like bro, there is no question that the footy fans on this country on average are far more passionate about the club than the national team. To the point where I actually did often used to wonder like, man, where are these die-hard England fans that they speak of? I'd love to have a chance to just sit with them and discuss our team and history since none of my friends give a f***. And well, happy to let you know that I've finally gotten the answers I've been looking for, because after having now gone to an England game, I can tell you that those die-hard fans are in fact inside the confines of one's imagination. They don't exist. They're not real. You can't see them. And listen, I guess this would be more common sense for the regular match goers, but for me it only became clear post the final whistle against Slovenia, where in an identical situation after a United or Arsenal game there'd be nothing but angry fans or just sad faces. The England contingent around me just started singing stuff like, "We're shit and we're proud of it, we're shit and we're proud of it," before then just casually laughing off to their following ventures at night. These men weren't there for the football, they were just looking to go out with their mates, get pissed and have a good time. And while that itself is completely fine, when it results in things like threatening a man's family and wishing his baby dies of cancer, getting into physical altercations and racially abusing players and fellow spectators, and then it turns out that you don't really give a shit about the event itself in the first place, I don't care how much of a good atmosphere you create in games. Bro, you need to sort yourself the fuck out. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure actual England fans do exist. Funnily enough, the real ones are probably the ones sat at home glued to their TV and watching the actual game. The ones in that stadium though, fans of mass gatherings, certainly. Fans of chaos, clearly. Fans of alcohol, undoubtedly. Fans of England, unlikely. Number 1, trouble with the police. So this happened after the Turkey vs Portugal game at the Westfalenstadion. Now, as I usually do after a game ends, I looked around a little, spoke to a few people in the stadium, took a few pictures, and then done. My train was due soon enough and I was tired as it was. I hadn't eaten anything all day, not to mention I'd just flown in the night before. So in short, I needed to dip, fam. So yeah, I walked out of the stadium and I was just about to cross over to the other side of the road, and all I see from the left side of my peripheral vision is a little Indian dude basically power walking to get in and stand in front of me. At first I was obviously a little bit baffled, but yeah, as soon as I saw him it finally dawned on me. This was a police officer. And as soon as he got in front of me, he came close and whispered something in German. I don't speak German. So he repeated it in English as best as he could, and it went something like, "Step aside please, you need to come with us for a second, we need to check something." Now as he's squeezing these words out, all I see is 3 other officers all in black come around and surround me. I mean, first of all, not this shit again, and secondly, isn't that kinda overdoing it? Bear in mind, by the way, I am by myself as I said, but weirdly enough, despite there being 4 of them and 1 of me, I looked at their faces and all 4 of them were looking worried as fuck, which incidentally got me feeling all worried as fuck. Like, bro, what is going on? So I obviously asked, sorry, is there a problem? And luckily, one of them was decently fluent in English, and he explained to me basically that the officers in this section of the stadium basically got information that I may be dangerous. Okay. So I just reacted that. Oh, by the way, they made it sound way cooler than it actually is. I wasn't running a biker gang and they hired an undercover cop who gave them info. As you'll go on to find out, it's a lot more dead than that. But yeah, as for my reaction to when they told me that I may be dangerous, well, my initial thought was,
is that racist? It feels racist.
But obviously I didn't say that to them, especially with an Indian officer standing right there who's probably darker than I am. So what I did end up asking was basically who snitched on me, like they were gonna tell me. They didn't, but you know what, they didn't need to. I have a pretty good feeling who it was. I'm pretty sure it was a group of bres sat along the same row as me who basically acted like Bin Laden was there looking for something he dropped under one of their seats whenever they had to get up and let me through. Flippin' hell, mate, grow up here, will ya? Oh, and funny thing, by the way, one of these dudes actually had a girl with him, and no joke, she actually seemed the least nervous out of them all. I'm sorry, but what a bunch of sissies, fam. So yeah, the cops took me to one side, asked me random questions each and every time, first in German, like I haven't f***ing told them that I don't speak the f***ing language. This made this drag out for about 30 minutes, where I was also checked for ID and checked for any potential weapons. And to top it all off, when it was all said and done, I was given the wrong f***ing directions again, which eventually made me miss my f***ing train. How you doing? So I then had to replan my journey using the German TFL thing, which in turn required me to make 3 or more transfers than I originally planned. A couple of those trains taking about 2 hours each to arrive, see entry 6. One period where I had to walk the streets of a random city between Dortmund and Hagen at around 1 AM and go and wait over at a bus stop that was right in the middle of nowhere with nothing surrounding it but fields and bushes. And as it is apparently the norm with transport in Deutschland, that bus also took about 40 minutes to arrive. And in the end, despite my initial plan being to arrive in Loma, where I stayed, by about 11 PM, I ended up getting in around 5 AM. Practically all because a group of local wet wipes thought I was scary. Are you f***ing serious? And these man them weren't kids either, by the way. I mean, they were younger than me, but I guess around 23 to 25. So not only does that raise just a whole bunch of questions about the kind of men they actually are, but also let's address the elephant in the room here. I'm not scary. Like, fuck me, man, get a grip. Like, bro, these pack of melts actually complained about me being scary. Me. Not my lack of fashion sense, that may be scary. Not how orange I end up looking in some of my videos, that's probably scary. And not even how long I'm able to stay away from the barbers, that's certainly scary. But me, I'm scary. Bro, man the f*** up. And by the way, that reminds me, look, I am aware that from the past 2 videos, I probably sound like I back myself to give seminars in f***ing Cambridge on how to be a man, but believe me, I don't. I mean, I've said this before, but I literally write poems about 30-year-old guys running around in shorts that have zero f***ing clue who I am. I ain't exactly Khabib wrestling bears, but boy am I glad that I ain't in the level of wussiness of some of the pansies we've covered in the past 2 videos. As in, I'm not scared of people who literally look like this in person, nor do I attack people online while I myself look like this in person. But man, I'm telling you now, if it wasn't for the actual game that day, which to be fair was pretty exciting, between me being late initially, getting pulled in like 4 different directions, being stopped by the feds, and jumping into a hurdle of public transport related chaos, that could easily have been one of the worst days of my life. Actually, Probably not, but it wasn't great. And man, it just gets even worse when I compare those experiences to the people I met during our solo trips to Spain and Switzerland. I mean, in those places, not only did the guys love me, but I also kinda got a few numbers. Whereas in Germany, I only got one number repeated 3 times, 999. And look, to tell the truth, I am being a little unfair judging the entire trip on that one experience alone. Because the truth is, I did meet a few cool people. The elderly couple who let me crash in their basement. The younger couple who let me eat in their restaurant for free because I happened to be from their neck of woods. The other couple who guided me to the bus stop in the early hours of the morning in a city I can't even name. And even in general, some of the other people I met in the stadium streets and restaurants. Wait a minute. Maybe that's why I didn't get many numbers. These man all came in couples, so they were already taken. Yeah, that must be it. And no, fuck, my hair is beautiful. And that is that. Agree or disagree, I'm just glad you're not afraid of me. So did you learn anything from this video? Have you been to any of the games yourself? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, we keep rolling.